I was in my late 30s and I just felt this pull, like this just desire to just kind of level up, but not necessarily level up in like my performance at work, or it was just more to like just feel connected to myself. I just kind of realized that I really wasn't connected to myself. I was very much a people pleaser my whole life. I was very much a person that wanted to be liked. I thought one of my skills was being able to get anyone I was sitting next to connect with me and like me. And I thought that was such a gift to have. And I guess maybe in some ways it was, but what happened as a result of that is I didn't know who I was. I was so scared to just have an opinion of my own, and then being on social media and then having open yourself up to that, it just really started to weigh on me, and I had a lot of struggles with that.
She started filming makeup tutorials alone in her unborn daughter's nursery, with no plan, no following, and no idea where it was going. That woman is now the founder of one of TikTok's most viral beauty brands, ranked in the top 500 of Inc. 5000 for the 3rd year running. I'm Nicole Toudouze, and this is Becoming, a collective of soul-led journeys. I'm honored to be sitting with my friend Lisa Jauregui, and I cannot wait for you to hear her journey.
So Lisa, let's start with going back and giving the audience a little bit of context about how you and I met, because I think that's a beautiful place to start the story. What do you think?
I love that.
So you were my makeup artist on my wedding day. And I remember during the process of like wedding planning and planning for the day, you and I got to be a little bit close. We got to be friends, and we were talking during you applying my makeup. And I remember you telling me, and this is like 2011, so many years ago, I remember you telling me, you know, Nicole, I love doing makeup, but something's just telling me this chapter is ready to close for me. And I'm not sure what it is I want to do next. I think it's still around beauty, but I just feel I remember you feeling a little anxious about not knowing what that next leap looked like for you, but sort of feeling that call, right, to begin searching for the next thing. Do you remember that?
I do really remember feeling that way around that time, because that was 15 years ago, right? And I remember feeling like, okay, something has to change. I was going to be starting to have children, and I just knew that this chapter was going to be closing, and I was nervous about that.
When you think back to that woman that you were, you know, back in 2011, could you ever have envisioned where you would be today? Is that something that even lived in your imagination?
I mean, maybe somewhere deep. If I had to answer that question briefly, I would say, no, I didn't imagine all of this. But if I really stop and think about who I was and dreams that I had, I think I had them. I just didn't know that if I could realize them.
Right. So you recently posted a reel on your Instagram where you said a friend had asked you, like, how do you know when you're ready to get started on launching a brand or taking on a venture? And I loved your message because it's something I believe wholeheartedly, but you said, when you start to create something or build something, you have to have the desire and passion for it outweigh your fear of rejection or criticism when you put it out. What are some things that you think helped you overcome some of those hurdles, and what would you say to other women who maybe have that little seed that's been planted or that little call on their heart and they're kind of ignoring their inner voice because of those fears?
When I started my YouTube channel, I mean, I guess that was probably the first big scary step in this. I didn't tell anyone I knew personally, really. You know, I was uploading these videos online, teaching makeup tutorials, but I didn't really tell my friends. And I'll never forget one day that a mom in preschool found one, and she came up to me and commented on it, and I was just like, you know, I was like, oh gosh. But I just loved it so much. I just didn't care. And I think that what I would tell a woman, you know, that wants to do something, but fear of what people are going to think or say is holding her back. The truth is that, here's the truth. No one's really thinking about you as much as you think that they're thinking about you, right? They're thinking about themselves. But at the end of the day, even those people, even if I knew 100 people were making fun of me or mocking me or talking about me, like, I don't care. Like, why would I give energy to that? Why would I give them the power to stop me from pursuing something I want to do? Why would I let them win? That doesn't make sense to me now. And if anything, I think that it's fuel and motivation to keep going, you know, because I said in that reel, like, if anyone made fun of me 12 years ago, like, I don't think they're making fun of me today.
No.
You know, and if they are,
no, their foot's in their mouth. Your foot's in your mouth.
And the truth is that people that spend their time, you know, talking about other people, gossiping, mocking other people, like, those people, more of a reflection of themselves.
That's about them.
It is.
That's about
It totally
them.
is. And I think the inner work really helped me understand that.
Same.
It's a projection, right?
Yeah.
They're seeing something in someone else that they feel is lacking in themselves, or it's threatening them. It has nothing to do with me.
And we're all each other's mirrors too. I walk through life now without, I just have such unconditional love for every human I come across, because I understand that we're all mirrors to each other. And it's like sometimes my light reflects someone's darkness within themselves, and sometimes somebody's brought into my life, maybe not for long term, but so that I can learn a new lesson and evolve and level up, you know. And so when you think about encounters that way, you start to just have more grace and mercy for people. So I think a lot of women at some point in their journey, when they're on journeys like ours, end up facing an obstacle of some kind. And it can be like when you're a child, whatever, but a hardship essentially that is a catalyst for shaping them into the woman or the person who can really embody and hold the things that we've built, right? I call it the anointing. It's like the pressing of the oil that happens when you go through struggles or you go through things that teach you something about yourself. So do you have a catalyst like that in your life that you think kind of helped to shape you into who you are, or an obstacle you had to overcome?
So when I think about something like a big shift in my life, I really think it happened when I was like 19 or 20 years old. And it's up until that point, I kind of grew up without a lot of confidence in myself, a lot of like kind of lack of self-worth. I had a boyfriend through high school, my kind of first love, you know, as young love goes. It was just kind of volatile and, you know, but at 20 years old, I found myself, you know, we were breaking up. My best friend had actually passed away. I had a best friend when I was 19 who died.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
very
that.
unexpectedly, very tragically.
So
And it kind of sent me into this depression,
Yeah.
right? I was in this deep depression. I just graduated high school. I didn't have a lot of direction in my life. I didn't have a lot of like confidence or self-worth. I had gained a lot of weight too. I didn't know what healthy eating looked like. I had never been taught like how to work out or how to exercise or the importance of that. So here I was, like 19 years old, overweight, depressed, no longer in high school. Friends were going off to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I started therapy, actually. I started therapy. And that really changed my life. It really showed me that I can choose who I want to be. I can choose who I want to be. I can be whoever I want to be. And I never had that thought before that, ever. I thought I was just like, this is who I am. This is the situation. These are the things I was taught from my parents, and that's the way I will go through life. And through therapy, I realized like, no, I can really be whatever. Yeah, I can be whoever I want to be. I started working out at a gym. I lost 40 pounds in about 6 months.
That's
amazing. And I think that was the biggest shift. I met Paul shortly after that. And I'll never forget when I first met Paul, I had a lot of trust issues with guys. And I would go through his phone and I just didn't trust him. And I was always looking for something to prove that he was who I thought all men were, right? And he was just so baffled by this because he didn't grow up with that. He didn't, he's like, why? I don't understand. Like, I've never given you a reason not to trust me. Like, I don't understand why you're doing this. And when I looked in his eyes and I saw he truly didn't get it, he didn't understand, and he wasn't, you know, I realized like, I need to go back to therapy.
Yeah.
And so I went back to therapy.
That's the mirror.
Yes.
That's the mirror, right?
I went back to therapy to figure out, why do I feel this way? Why do I have these beliefs? Why can't I trust? And then that, I think if I hadn't done that, I definitely don't think I would have, Paul and I would be married today.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just been, you know, years and years of optimizing and improving and learning and growing and evolving. But I think the biggest shift and transformation really happened, thankfully, when I was young, you know, and I was able to see that therapy can, that you're in control of your life.
Yeah.
You get to make decisions for the type of life that you want to live.
And it's just been so cool, even from a distance, to be able to witness the transformation you've gone through all, you know, over the course of the last 2 decades and everything that you've accomplished. It's, as a woman and a mom, like so inspiring for me to witness. And having gotten to get to know your character a little bit and who you are at your heart, it just is even more exciting to cheer you on, because you are such a grounded and down-to-earth and kind person. You've always been kind to me, and I know that kindness is a big part of your mission. I know that BK Beauty is obviously a foundational brand in beauty and wellness, but tell me a little bit more about the bigger vision and the mission at play here, because I know it is a soul mission of yours.
When I started BK Beauty, I had been a beauty influencer, and I kind of think I was like this accidental beauty influencer, because when I started influencing or creating content, it certainly wasn't with the goal of becoming an influencer.
Right.
It was because I had finally made that leap of closing my wedding makeup business with the goal of being available to raise my little kids. I had tiny little ones at the time. And so I started YouTube as like another outlet for this passion. I was like, I still love makeup. I still love teaching makeup. I still love connecting with women over this. So let me start a YouTube channel. Had no idea it would lead me to where I am today. I mean, it's just wild. I still wake up and think to myself, like, how did this happen?
I have those moments too. Yeah.
And so when I started my YouTube channel, I had a 2-year-old and I was pregnant. I was about 30, 31 at that time.
And at this time, wasn't it like in your bathroom or your bedroom?
It was actually in the nursery of my unborn daughter.
Oh, okay. I remember you just had like a table.
Yes, it was very
when
simple.
You first started.
Yes, it was cringe. It was actually kind of cringeworthy, but I love it. I'll never take down
we
that
didn't
first video. But so when I started my YouTube channel, I was 31, brand new mom, still had a lot of insecurity, still had a lot of uncertainty of who I was, still saw makeup as a tool to like make me feel better about myself, right? By the time we launched the brand, which was about 5 years later, I was a different woman. You know, I had a daughter now that was like 7 and one that was 5. I was now in my mid to late 30s. I had this wisdom that I didn't have, you know, when I started my YouTube channel. I had this confidence that I didn't have when I started my YouTube channel. I was just evolving as a woman. And I remember having a lot of conflict actually about being a beauty influencer at that time, because I was worried about what I was teaching my daughters. I was like, am I teaching them the message that beauty is putting on a bunch of makeup and that's what makes you beautiful? Because that's certainly not what I want to teach them, right? And so I had this inner conflict with what I did and what message it was sending to my kids. So when I thought about the brand, I knew I didn't want to name it like my brand name, which was Lisa J Makeup. I wanted it to be centered around the message of beauty that I want to teach my girls. My daughters are Brooklyn and Kate, so that's kind of where the B and the K came from. But then it was like, okay, what's the message about beauty that I want them to learn? And it was that beauty is kindness, right? And so that's kind of what BK stands for. But it really is like not only this layer of being kind to other people, because I think we're always taught that. I know when I was a little girl, I was taught to be kind, be nice, be the good girl, right? But what lacked for me is that kindness to myself, right? And that's really what I didn't learn until my mid-30s, unfortunately. It sounds so sad to say that, but I didn't learn that piece until much later in life. So that's the mission behind BK Beauty, is to celebrate makeup, celebrate, you know, how fun it is to be able to put makeup on, but understand that like beauty is really an inside job, and it's that kindness.
It's an intrinsic thing,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I think I'm here today because it's truly a result of me just following a passion.
Okay.
You know, I had this passion for makeup in my life. Since I was little, right? And to be honest, like in my 20s, I didn't think it was good enough. Yeah. I was embarrassed to say I was a makeup artist. Yeah. So I had this other corporate job that I did during the week, and then I would do wedding makeup on the weekend because I would tell people I'm an advertising executive.
Yeah, you were in media and advertising. I remember that.
And I felt like more confident telling people that, even though that wasn't my passion. Yeah. And I was so insecure about all of my 20s, but I always loved it. So I always found a way to keep makeup in my life. So at one point it was doing wedding makeup, then it was starting a YouTube channel. And then that kind of led me to where I'm at today. But it's really, I'm here today because I had a passion and I've kept it in my life and however it fit at the time. Yeah. You know? Let's expand on that a little bit. So when you think about like before you were an Inc. 5000 founder, right? Before you were leading this big brand, do you remember a moment where you felt like the entrepreneurial call was starting to ring in your heart? You know, I know that you said it was sort of this evolution from sticking with your passion, but was there ever a moment where you had sort of that epiphany of like, I think this is the path for me? And do you remember what that felt like? Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about BK Beauty, I do remember that very clearly. But if I really think about like this entrepreneurial spirit, I've always had it. Yeah. You know, even my wedding makeup business, that was me leaning into that part of me, right? I started off with me doing weddings, and then I had a few other makeup artists, and then at one point we were doing like 40 weddings a month, which was pretty big at the time, alongside a full-time job. So I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. I've always felt like had that kind of hustle mentality, work, you know. I have a different view on that today, but when it came to BK Beauty, it was pretty clear. My husband was working in, he had been at the same job for about 10 years in cybersecurity, and he was the head of marketing there. And he was ready for his next thing, and we always wanted to do something together. And by that point, I had been on YouTube for about almost 5 years, and I'd built this really amazing community. It wasn't massive, but it was really close, and they trusted me, and we had had nurtured this community online. And so I knew I had done the hard hard work for already.
Planted those seeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nurtured that community, right?
Yeah.
I had kind of built my customer base for years without even knowing it. And so I'll never forget, actually, clearly, Paul had gone to lunch with a friend, and he came home. He's like, we're going to start this. We're going to do this. And then the idea of makeup brushes came shortly after that. And then it was just like off to the races. We launched the brand about 10 months later. He quit his job 2 months after that. And then we've been building this together.
That's a beautiful story. So on that topic, one of the questions I always love to ask my guests is, like, what part do you think a supportive partner plays in a woman's ability to achieve her goals? Like, how do you think you and Paul's partnership has really sort of fostered your ability to grow the way you have?
I mean, I think it's so important. I think who you choose to build a life with is the most important decision that you'll make, right? Not to say you need someone to do great things, right? women can do things on their own, right? But I think if you choose a partner, that partner is either going to just not cheer you on, discourage you, make you feel like you can't do it, right? Or they're just going to be kind of an observer, or they're going to cheer you on, or they're going to build it with you, right? I think if you can fall into that later half, like, that's so special. Paul is just as much of this as I am, for sure. And I remember meeting Paul, how many years ago? 24 years ago. I had just got my job at MAC Cosmetics. I was 19 years old. And I met him at a party, and I was talking to him, and I was just talking about this new job that I got at the makeup counter. And my dream job was a 12-hour job at the MAC counter. But I thought I had just gotten my dream job. I mean, it really was. And
but look at the stepping stone,
yes,
like, look where the path it led you on. How
for
beautiful.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I joke about it, but truly,
Yeah.
MAC, I learned so much at MAC. But I remember telling him, sitting on these little lawn chairs in this backyard, and he was like, you need to build a website. And this was 24 years ago. This was when no one had websites. Yeah. It was very expensive. You had to go hire a coder, and it was thousands and thousands of dollars. There wasn't like Squarespace and all the things, right? And he's like, and he's the one who built me a website so that I could start taking freelance jobs and doing weddings on the side. Yeah, so if I look back, Paul has always been my biggest supporter, and he's the one that told me I should do a YouTube channel. He showed me how to edit my videos, and so Paul's definitely a huge part of where I'm in, because I chose to marry that man.
Yeah, I love that. So you've been doing a lot more publicity lately, getting yourself out there a little bit more, right? So you did Dancing with the Stars Austin, also GMA featured BK Beauty, correct? So tell me a little bit about what that's been like, sort of honing those skills to kind of really put yourself out in mass media and like get outside your comfort zone. Do you still struggle with limiting beliefs and fears of rejection like we talked about earlier?
I definitely do. When I was asked to do Dancing with the Stars in Austin, I remember that day so clearly, and I remember being asked, and my first response internally was like, there's just no way I can do this. I just can't get up there and dance. I don't know how to dance, who do I think I am? But then I thought, you know what, this is actually a really great opportunity. This is a really great opportunity to challenge myself. What's the worst that can happen? And I remember actually right before, when my music cued and my back was turned towards the audience and I was ready to do my first move, I remember taking a deep breath, and my friend told me to tell myself this, and it actually worked. She said, go out there and show them what you're made of.
Oh, I love
it. I will get emotional thinking about it, but to answer your question, yes, I do struggle with those insecurities and those feelings of failing or making a fool of myself. But I just kind of think to myself, like, so what? If I fell on that stage, would I be mortified? Yes, but so what? I'd wake up the next day and life would be great. You know? If I'm on GMA and I trip up my words, so what? We're human. None of us are perfect. So I think having that inner dialogue with myself kind of helps manage the nerves and manage the fear a bit.
I think authenticity helps too. Like, as long as wherever you're showing up, whatever platform that is, if you can bring your most genuine self, you can rest in that exposure a little easier versus trying to wear a mask or being something you're not or perform, that's what I found really helps me, is just embodying my truth and showing up as genuine as I possibly can,
I love that you said that. I really, I did a lot of work a few years ago, and I remember that feeling of just feeling comfortable in who I was and not feeling like I needed to perform or impress or get people to like me.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned kindness can easily turn into people pleasing. It's like a slippery slope, right? We become these sacrificial women, right? Where whether it's for our families or our kids and our businesses, it's like we're always seeking to perform, and sometimes we have to remember it's okay to receive as well, right? And I've been down that road and gone through my own journey, and it has been life-changing for me. Like, honestly, it helped me through what I call a remembrance of who I really am, coming home to myself. Have you had a similar journey, and what did that look like for you?
I did, yes. I think that work started for me shortly after COVID, honestly, which I think is probably when that happened for a lot of people.
Same.
So what was that, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
So I was in my late 30s, and I just felt this pull, like this just desire to just kind of level up, but not necessarily level up in like my performance at work, or it was just more to like just feel connected to myself. I just kind of realized that I really wasn't connected to myself. I was very much a people pleaser my whole life. I was very much a person that wanted to be liked. I thought one of my skills was being able to get anyone I was sitting next to connect with me and like me. Whatever I needed to be. If I needed to be, this way with this person, this way with this person, I could do it, and they'd like me. And I thought that was such a gift to have. And I guess maybe in some ways it was. But what happened as a result of that is I didn't know who I was. I was so scared to just have an opinion of my own, and then being on social media and then having open yourself up to that, it just really started to weigh on me, and I had a lot of struggles with that. So. I had done therapy in the past, and I had found that really helpful. I'd read all the books, I listened to all the podcasts. I think the most transformative experience I had was the Hoffman Process that I did, which was a 7-day retreat, and I did that in 2022.
Have you done it again since then?
I did. Okay. I did a follow-up about a year later, and my experiences were very different.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the first time I went, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know much about what was going to happen. I didn't know. All I knew is I go somewhere for 7 days, I turn my phone in, my computer in, I can't talk to my family, I can't talk to anyone, I can't connect to the world. And every day you'd show up and you would learn what you were doing that day, that morning. You didn't know what the week was going to look like. And that was like the most beautiful week of my life. I tell people it was like the way that I felt on the last day of that process was whenever I talk to a woman that's had a child, I remind them of that feeling you have when you hold your child for the first time. And that's how I felt the last day of the process, but that love was towards myself. And that was pretty incredible, and it was also like,
that makes me want to cry.
I know. It also was sad because I realized I had never had that in my life, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
And then the authenticity component too is huge. That to me is like the key to success, because authenticity is the most magnetized frequency. And so it's like we think we have, in order to be successful, we have to morph ourselves or mold ourselves to what people want to see, but that actually just ends up forcing us to repeat cycles, and we don't accomplish what we want to accomplish. But when we truly embody who we are at our most original self or highest self, then we attract the things meant for us, right? And then from there it just builds.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
I totally agree. One thing I learned at the Hoffman Process is like judgment, right? And how when we judge other people, it prevents us from connecting to them. And I think when you hear the word judgment, at least for me, I always thought of judgment as like people who are judgy think they're better than you. They're judging you, they're judging them to be better than you. But if you think about it, judgment can also be judging people to be better than you. And I realized I did that a lot. I had certain friends that I thought I had to impress. I had certain friends I thought I had to dress a certain way because they have more success or more this than me, and I judged them to be better than me, and I wasn't allowing myself to really connect with them, in an authentic way. And I think after that, coming home from that, I did feel just more at peace, just sitting there in quiet, listening, like really listening to someone, not thinking of what I have to say next when they're done talking, or just, and I think that's like, when you're able to do that, that's when you really connect with people.
Yes, because how deep can the connection or the relationship go if you're not really giving someone access into who you truly are? It will always stop at a certain level. Not only that, it gets exhausting. Whether it's a romantic relationship, professional relationship, friendship, doesn't matter. If you are wearing a mask in a connection over time, that's going to wear you down, and it turns into even self-hatred sometimes because you're not
being true to who you are.
Exactly. So I love the story you told about the moment you loved yourself, like you loved your kids for the first time. I have experienced that in the last year. And I remember looking in the mirror at myself and realizing that I very rarely had looked in the mirror at myself because I was too scared to truly look in my own eyes, because there was so much I hadn't dealt with or faced in my lifetime. And when I started to do the work to heal a lot of those wounds and trauma, the more I healed, the more I wanted to know myself, and the more I could look at myself in the mirror. And there was this one night where it just hit me like that, like a lightning bolt. And I just looked right in my eyes and was like, I love you. I love you.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever told you. You're chosen regardless of if a man chooses you. You're chosen regardless of if you're a millionaire or, you know, super successful. You're already chosen. You're already enough. And once you get to that realization, it is that just peace that just comes over you.
I was thinking as she started telling me that story, I thought about the time that I looked in the mirror in my own eyes and said, I love you. Because that's another exercise that we learned.
Yeah.
And it's so wild to think that how impactful that can be. You know, I mean, I remember the first time I did that, I started sobbing. And I'm like, where's this coming from?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, all you've ever needed is for me to love you. You've been searching for love outside yourself, and it was within you the whole time, you know? Yeah, it's a beautiful moment to have. Yeah. So in terms of sort of the inner transformation you underwent, what would you say changed in terms of how you maybe approach motherhood or your family or even the business coming out of something like that? How does it change how you lead?
I think what happened for me after that, I went into that with a lot of insecurities that I wasn't a strong leader, that I just got lucky with the business. You know, everything I had was just I got lucky. You know, things happened to work out for me, but I didn't create them myself. Is kind of the mindset I had almost in a way, subconsciously. And I always felt like I needed to be stronger, more assertive, more direct, more of this leader, more of this CEO, boss babe, whatever, you know, and it just, I just didn't resonate with that, but I thought I needed to be that. When I left the process, I realized I don't need to be that. I think that it is how I've attracted the people in my life because of who I am. It's how I've attracted the team that we have. It's, and it's, I think I realized that I just need to be myself.
Yeah.
And like, you know, that's my greatest asset, right? In motherhood, I think it really, at that week, I remember a really clear feeling I had. There's one day that they program into the 7 days of like connecting to your inner child and having fun and being playful. And they make you do these like series of things that you would think are ridiculous and mortifying, right? Like as an adult, because you're like, I'm not gonna do that, you know, like people are gonna laugh at me, I'm gonna look so dumb. But you do it, and then by the end of the day, you're laying on the ground crying because you realize you just had so much fun and you remember what it's like to be a kid. And so I remember telling myself, like, and I remember a specific feeling I had and thought that I had was, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play with my kids. When they asked me to go down the slide at the, you know, amusement park, I'm not gonna think about my hair getting wet or how bad I'm gonna look. I'm gonna go down that slide. I'm gonna just like have fun, you know? And so that allowed me to just, I think, parent from a different place.
Absolutely. That inner child, like, one, reparenting the inner child is a lot of like the work I had to do as well, but even just reactivating that inner child brings, I think, wonderment back into your life, which absolutely plays into mothering. But then also, don't you feel like you can, like your creative expression just is amplified when you are integrating that into your identity?
100%.
Like the downloads just totally open up, you know, you're just, so many ideas flow, I think, because you don't have those blockages anymore, right?
100%.
So you have two girls, particularly when it comes to having teen girls or adolescent girls. Parenting changes quite a bit at this season. There's like an extra interesting component when you are women, like driven women like we are, building things, finding forms of self-expression outside motherhood, identities outside motherhood. What role do you think that plays in like our daughters understanding what they're capable of and how that guides their futures?
I mean, my hope is that it's going to show them what's possible, and they're quietly observing and learning and watching, and when they're an adult, that's going to, you know, help support them in their growth. That's my hope. You know, I had a mother that was my biggest fan. You know, my mother, I think if there's anyone in the world that loves me is like more than anything, it's my mother. And I've always known that, you know, I've always known that. And I see now as a mother, like I appreciate her so much more now, right? And I see all the sacrifices and I get it and I understand and I see a lot of myself in her now, right? And I think a lot of these things, you know, our daughters will come to realize when they're adults, you know? If I were to ask my daughter now, like, what do you think of what I do? You know, I don't know. It's cool, I guess. You know.
Do you think they totally grasp like you're kind of a celebrity? Do you think they like grasp it yet? Or
I mean, I don't know. I think their friends think I'm really cool, but I think that It doesn't matter. to
they're
them.
not allowed
They're
to
not.
think you're cool.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
not
it's-
cool to them. I'm definitely not
You know,
cool
the
to them.
boys will cheer me on quite a bit. Like Hudson texted me last night and he was like, "You're gonna do so well tomorrow, Mom." You know, like he's my cheerleader. Connor too, but Hadley's more so like she'll downplay everything.
Yeah.
You know, she's
funny.
Yeah.
I did take them to see me at Dancing with the Stars. I did have them sit at the tables.
Oh,
up
I'm sure
front,
they thought
and
that was so
That
cool.
was like, I could see on their face how proud they were.
Yeah.
And my goal is to incorporate and bring them into more things that I do with the business. So like if I do go on GMA again or something, I want to bring them, you know, I
Yeah.
want them to come too to see that.
Yeah.
I think it's naturally a default is like, okay, I got to get the kids covered here. Who's going to watch the kids while I go do this? But why not bring them to some things?
I
you know?
incorporate my kids into almost everything at TD. Yeah, it's important to me that they feel a part of it because they have paid a price for it too, in a way, you know, when they were little. So I wanted to talk about mothering again for a little bit. So I don't know if you remember, just a cute little story. When our girls were babies, I had reached out to you because Hadley was a terrible sleeper. Do you remember this? It was so long ago. It's okay if you don't. She was a terrible sleeper, and I messaged you one night and I just said, "How are you getting Brooklyn to sleep?" Because I think you had like posted about her sleep or something. And I was like, "Hadley never sleeps." And you told me, I sing "You Are My Sunshine" 3 times in a row until she falls asleep. And so I started doing that with Hadley, and I did that with all my kids. Like still to this day, Connor, I will sing "You Are My Sunshine" 3 times
love
before
that.
bed. And it's just so funny the threads we weave in our lives, because I think of you every time. And I'm just like, I don't know, you just cross my mind when I'm singing to them, and because it was just so sweet that you tried to help me, and I'm so glad that she's doing so
And
well.
your kids are going to remember that. Like they're going to remember their mom singing that to them every night. That's so beautiful.
Isn't that so cute?
Sweet. Brooklyn's kind of like just night mom, you know,
Yeah.
like she's at that age. But with Kate, and we've been doing this for probably 4 years now. I started it on a vacation at the beach, but that's what I say to them every night. It's like, I'm smart, I'm special, I can do anything, I'm loved, I'm beautiful, I'm kind, and I'm grateful. We kind of just say these things, you know. And I hope that one day, you know, when they're adults, they look back on that and hope it's some subconscious program in them that got downloaded. I don't know. You know, these things you just never know until they're adults, how it impacts them.
So on the topic of like parenting and being founders and being in business, how do you, and it's kind of a cliche question, but I'm asking anyway, how do you juggle all the hats, right? Like all the balls? How do you keep in balance when we are carrying so many things and we're so multifaceted? How do you kind of keep that balance within yourself?
Today I'm very fortunate and very lucky because I have a lot of resources and help, right? So I do feel like I balance and juggle a lot, but I've done a really great job too, I think, of like offloading and outsourcing the things that maybe I don't have to do, right? And allow me to just do the things I want to do and the things that maybe only I can do and do those really well, right?
Yeah.
So I want to kind of give 2 answers to that because, you know, like I have a great team, you know, and we have someone that comes and helps and clean our home every, you know, a couple times a week, and I've outsourced a meal delivery service now when I need it, you know, so I've kind of viewed it, but I realize not everyone maybe can do that. So I think back to the days when maybe I was just feeling kind of overwhelmed and there was so much. I just had to really be a great executor of my schedule and time management and really plan out my days, just almost to schedule how much time it was going to take me to get ready, how much time it was going to, and just really outline my day so that I knew that it was going to get done. I knew that there was time for it all, even if it felt overwhelming. I could look at it and say, no, it's here. But to how I juggle it now today, I have an amazing team that helps me, and because I do prioritize picking the kids up from school, or at least stop working when they're home. Michelle, who's been my best friend since we were 12 years old, she works with me. Actually, she's here now. Sometimes she'll get them from school, but when they get dropped off, I'm done for the day. And that's really important to me. And so I think the biggest thing I've had to work through is just not feeling guilty for that.
Yeah.
Right? Just like reminding myself that I don't need to feel guilty for that, right? Like, I think a lot of us just kind of kill ourselves or work ourselves to death because we feel like we have to, and we have to prove to others.
Look how much I can do.
Yeah. But, I mean, life is beautiful, and we don't know how long we're here for, and you know, I just feel like you have to live it for yourself.
Okay, so I have some fundamental non-negotiables in sort of my daily routine, and without those, I find that I can't show up with clarity and lead or parent the way I would truly like to as my highest self. Do you have day-to-day practices that help keep you grounded and rooted?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I'm operating at my best and I'm in that state of just not being reactive, right, and just feeling a lot of peace and centered, these are the things I'm doing. I'm getting up early before anyone else gets up, at least 30 minutes, but ideally an hour, right? So for me, that's like 5:30. I'm getting up and I'm staying up, and I'm gratitude journaling even for 5 minutes, just writing down a couple things that I'm grateful for. Taking a few minutes to read. I'm not naturally a reader. I love audiobooks and podcasts, but I think it's like a learning disability that I had. I'll read and I have to reread it because I don't process it, you know? So it's a challenge for me. So, but I'm reading The Power of Presence, or The Power of Now.
Oh, Power of Now.
Yeah. And it's all about spiritual growth.
Yeah.
But try to do 10 minutes of that. Yeah. And then I really love having like 10 minutes with my dogs, like on my couch, just to like look in their eyes. And I know it sounds so silly.
No, animals are grounding.
Yes, people are gonna think I'm crazy, but
they regulate your nervous system.
They do. When I look at my dog's eyes, this is funny. This is gonna sound like a nut. I feel like connected to them. I feel so much love for my animals, and so I like to have some time where I can just be with them. And then of course working out. If I can work out, that's a great day.
Yes.
And those are probably it. I try not to have some super complicated routine in the morning, but if I can do those 3 things, it's going to be a good day.
Do you meditate?
I used to. Okay. I need to start again, because I will say when I was meditating daily, that was probably the most at peace I had been.
Yeah, meditating is a huge non-negotiable for me. Yeah, but
how long do you meditate?
Usually about an hour.
Wow.
Usually about an hour.
In the morning?
If I can, yeah. On the days I have the kids, it's a little bit less, maybe 30 minutes.
Wow.
But I start my day that way every single
Do you have a certain type?
time. Not really. I'll do some chakra opening type stuff, activating different chakras, manifestation and intention setting, right? Like, so how do I want my day to go? What are the goals I have for that week? Things like that. Also just getting centered. So I'm wired anxious. I always have been like that. It's a lot better now since I've healed, but I do still have to keep that in check. And meditation is a good way for me. Really what it comes down to, and the reason I'm so strict on my meditation, is that I want to hear my voice first every day. After God. Like for me, I also do prayer and devotional. So tap into my higher power and then my highest self, because then I can carry that inner knowing with me throughout my day and everything I approach. I have that like clarity. Fitness is huge. I think huge. Like the more I think I get on my plate in terms of what my hands are in and everything I'm involved in, the more I want to take care of my body, because it's you'll burn out quick. And not just that, but like if I feel good, then I feel like I can show up better, and it helps kind of obviously mitigate stress and all of that, right?
Well, and now at like my age, I'm 43, it's like I'm working out just so that when I'm 80, I can still move, right? It's not to look hot in a bikini. Yeah, that's a good thing, but like it's like aging.
Building endurance over time,
yes. And things are not feeling like they used to feel.
No.
So, yeah.
I'm like, every morning I wake up, I'm like, that's new. It's a new thing.
How do I feel so old, but I look so young?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. And then also like my spirit, I feel like is so young. So sometimes it's like turning 39 this year. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I think that's that inner child that we talked about. Like when you activate that, ages, it kind of loses its power over you a little bit when you keep that youthful, wonder.
The Hoffman Process, they teach this. They teach you about the quadrinity.
Okay.
And there's 4 parts to you, right? There's your intellectual self, your spiritual self, your body, and then there was a 4th. It's escaping me, but there's like the 4 kind of things you need to connect with every day, right? You need to connect with your intellectual self, which most of us live in that intellectual part of ourselves, right? Your spiritual self, which is like the
heart center.
Yep. And then also just like your body, like what does my body need today? So the meditation is you go through each of those quadrinities and you ask them like, what do you need, body? What do you need from me today?
Yeah.
And so that was really powerful. I need to do that.
Yeah, that I think is why I have those non-negotiables, because I'm trying to hit that, right? And so it's like I make sure I put my feet in the grass when I start my day. Every day I ground outside, breath work, things
powerful.
like that. Yeah. Devotional to build that spiritual relationship. The physical component for sure. Yeah, it's funny because it's really so simple.
I know.
The secret to it all is really very simple. The secret to manifestation and intention setting and like living a grounded life that you can build upon.
Yeah. It's almost so simple that people think it like, oh, it's fine if I don't do it today, right? How much impact can it really make? But I think too, what I learned is like, it's a journey of your whole life, because when I was doing all those practices, I got to this place where I was like, I'm so enlightened. Like, I don't need to do this, you know?
Yeah.
and so you stop, you let go of the habits, and then, you know, a year later, I'm yelling over the slightest thing. I'm reactive, I'm this or that. And I'm like, okay, I've let go of these habits, and here I am now, right? And it's just like, it is a constant daily.
It's work. Yeah, it takes work for sure. And I think from the get-go, when we're born, the way our society is built is to sort of entrap us in these limiting beliefs and these constructs of what's imposed on us, and we forget that we are creators. We are co-creating with our creator. And when you remember that, it unlocks a whole new level of life, and I am capable of abundance, and I am capable of prosperity, and I am capable of creation, right? And like I said, when we started, it's a remembrance journey. I think it's like we're always that person, but we just lose them for a while. And I think everything that happens to us in our life is to try to get us to remember that point of origination, you know? I believe in manifestation. I believe in setting intentions, and I also believe that when we embody the person who can hold the things we dream about, that's when it really happens, right? So you sort of have to align with what it is that you desire. What are some of the things that you embody day to day in an effort to continue to be the woman that you want to be?
I mean, I try and embody patience, and I try and connect and understand my feelings and question them. If I'm feeling a negative feeling, if I'm feeling irritated, frustrated, insecure, I try and stop and ask and understand why I'm feeling that way, right? When I can allow space for that, self-awareness, I guess I try and embody self-awareness is probably the root of it, right? Just like really questioning my thoughts and understanding. I usually figure out that it's never, the frustration is something deeper than what's happening in that moment, right? And I'm just reacting in that moment because of this other stuff that's going on. Maybe I'm burning myself out, maybe I'm not taking care of myself, and it's causing me to have less patience with my daughter or whatever, and it's not her fault, right? It's like, why do we, so just, I really try and have a level of self-awareness that is always high and always on.
I think self-awareness is a huge component of success, not just success in your life, but in your relationships too. Like you have to be able to take accountability and grow.
And I think also look at the people that you're around and the conversations that are happening and the energy that's there, right? I have some friends, love them dearly, but they just love to gossip, or they love, it's always this or that or that. And you know, I just kind of nod and but it's energy sucking, right? I try and limit the exposure and the time that I have with those friends, right? And hope that they kind of reach a point where they realize, like, okay, if I'm complaining all the time, I'm complaining all the time, I'm only going to find things to complain about, right?
And attract, you attract what you put out. So if you're always putting out negative energy, that's
what you're going to get back.
Karma's going to bring you back.
Exactly.
It's just, I'm connecting the dots in a lot of like our conversation today, and the self-love component and the finding that self-worth that we've both found. I feel like when you start to do that and you heal and you value yourself, you value how you spend your time and energy so much more, and you get really particular about where it goes. And being in that people-pleasing mode back in the day, my energy leaked everywhere because I was just like, who needs love? Who needs healing? Who needs support? I will lay down my life for you.
Never say no to anything.
Never say no to anything. Be whatever somebody requires me to be. Give as much as somebody requires. And I just wasn't ever intentional about where my energy and love and time went. And then I would feel depleted, not fulfilled, and I wouldn't feel valued. I never felt valued, and I thought, just give more, be more, do more, and then you'll feel that value. And that's not how it works. Like, you have to feel the value and the worth first, and understand that that inherently lives in you. It's not something that can be achieved outside of you. When I think about like the self-love component and getting intentional with how we spend our time and energy, you start to see when you encounter situations like that where you used to be able to coexist within that world, and then all of a sudden now it's like your nervous system sort of rejects it. Because it's like, this is no longer in alignment with where we are. It can be kind of a lonely journey sometimes, 100%. Because you have to start cutting cords with people, or restructuring the relationships in your life, and there's guilt that comes along with that. There's fear that comes along with that, and it can just be a little bit of like a scary process, don't you think?
I 100% agree. I think also it's like, you have to find peace in solitude and being comfortable being alone and being, One thing I want to do, I was actually talking to Paul about this the other week, is like, whenever I talk about the Hoffman process, I get like emotional. And a couple weeks ago, we were out for dinner with friends, and I started talking about it, and I started crying at the dinner table.
I cry when I talk about spirituality. So,
and when we got home that night, he said to me, and I thought was already in my head, but he said to me, he's like, why don't you find something this year that you can go to like that, you know, because he could see like how much that meant to me. And I really want to do a silent retreat.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you've ever done one, but I really want to do a silent retreat.
Yeah,
and
that sounds amazing.
I mean, that is like, you know, very much getting comfortable in yourself and your thoughts. And and I think that, it definitely feels lonely at times. And there's been times where I've seen things on social media and I wasn't invited. And, you know, at first the ego feels like bruised, right?
Yeah.
But then I stop and I tell myself, okay, Lisa, how much effort have you put into those friendships, right? Like, when was the last time you invited any of those ladies out? Never. You know, like, how can I expect to be included in that? And then the other follow-up question I have to ask is, would I really want to be there? No, I don't want to be there. I'd rather be here in my house with my dog.
Yes.
On my lap. And so, it's just that check of your ego. Right?
And that's the key to breaking cycles, is the self-awareness of being able to point at it and say, okay, is it the feeling that's true? Or am I attaching a definition to something that is incorrect?
Exactly.
And being able to pinpoint that and say, it doesn't have to be associated with this feeling. I'm choosing to make that attachment. I can detach this emotion to what's happening and then pinpoint the cycle and say, okay, I don't need to go down this mental loop because the reality is A, B, and C.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, it's beautiful. And it takes a lot of work to get to that point. It really does. I think we're experiencing a little bit of the return of the feminine energy, right? Where for so long, I think women have been made to believe we have to be able to do it all and flawlessly and not break a sweat while doing it and not ever have a crash out, as my kids would say. Mom, are you crashing out? They always tell me. You know, and it's interesting because I think women are starting to wake up to like, okay, wait, I can, I can design my life and I can choose what I want it to look like. And I think it's easy to get caught up in that, like, baddie sort of like mentality, but all that has brought me is like burnout, you know what I mean? Or feelings of inadequacy because I set these like crazy goals that are inachievable based on my resources or whatever. And so when you can learn to be in your soft energy too and receive and like not hold yourself guilty or accountable for that and be able to say it is okay also for me to rest.
Right.
It is okay for me to pour into myself. I don't always have to be doing A, B, and C.
Right.
And I've found by finding that balance, I perform so much better just organically in other areas of my life because I'm not forcing myself into something I'm not, and then build my dreams, you know, in that energy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are able to tap into that inner voice and that inner knowing pretty well at this point in order to know the steps to take as you're building your future and continuing down your path?
I do. Sometimes I feel like I can access that a little easier than other times. I think one thing that I'm working on right now is just to really trust that and not look for approval or like, for example, you know, we're working on developing some products and I know what I want to do, but I also feel like I need approval and validation from other people that this is what I should do. And I'm trying to remind myself, like, sometimes it's good to ask other people, like, what do you think? But sometimes also I should do what I want to do, right? I should build, in this case, the product that I want to build. There are times when I feel like I can access that better than others.
Yeah, no, that answers my question. And I think it's interesting, as women, intuition is our superpower. And we've been told not to trust it anymore. That's the world we live in now. And I have always, my entire life, been an empath and a very intuitive person. And those gifts growing up, I was made to believe made me too much, too sensitive, too open book, too this, too that, too emotional, too dramatic, like whatever label people wanted to put on it. But now that I have integrated and accepted my gifts and the things that make me me, honing those gifts has been my superpower. That's been the key to my success, is the things people told me maybe were different about me or needed to be buried were actually the things that, once I embraced them, helped me to get to my next level. You know, the show, like, without that sensitivity, the show wouldn't exist, right? Because I feel a call to have space where people can have vulnerable stories and be themselves. And
I love that. Yeah. I think our intuition is a superpower, and I think just learning to trust it and listen to it. And I think we all have it and we feel it, but just trusting it. I had so many stories where I didn't trust it, and I paid for it. You know, and so now, and sometimes that can be tough, I think, when you have this gut feeling that something doesn't feel right. But on paper, it looks like an amazing opportunity, or it looks like something you should definitely say yes to. But something inside is just like, this doesn't.
That's where discernment comes into play, right?
And that's hard. And so sometimes trusting that and making a decision that's really hard in the moment, but you know, is saving you so much in the future. You know, I have made a couple of those decisions in the last couple of years, and I've actually made mistakes and had that intuition telling me, don't do this. I did it anyway, and I paid for it later. But I learned a lesson from it. You know, even after that specific thing happened, I remember looking back and like, well, I can't be disappointing any other person, because I knew, you know, if anything, this is a learning experience for me, just to trust it next time.
And when you can combine the two, like intuition for forward movement and discernment for sort of that divine protection, you know, you realize you're always being guided. You just have to give yourself the moment to be able to tap into that higher guidance and inner knowing. And when you can do that, that's when the magic happens and everything unlocks. So, okay, so you mentioned these new products that we're working on, which I'm so excited about. I saw your reel, and you've been dropping Easter eggs and teasers. So on the last teaser you did, you said, I'm wearing it, but you can't see it. Was that the clue?
I said you can see it, but you can't see it.
You can see it, but you can't see it. Okay. So you are not going to tell me if I'm right, but I just have to guess. I want to guess that it's translucent powder.
I don't know.
You don't know? We'll see. She's not going to tell us, you guys. Won't.
I will say it's in a new category outside of makeup brushes, so I'm very excited about that.
I was hoping we were going to do maybe like a move into a different vertical of some, like expand, right? So that's so exciting.
We're working on some cosmetic products.
Well, and on the topic of products, like, I just want to be really clear that I don't do any product placement on my show, Lisa. So don't expect me to promote your brushes, or this is the Hot and Flashy, correct?
Correct.
The Hot and Flashy.
I would never
concealer.
ask you to.
They're the only makeup brushes I use, but the cameras aren't rolling and we're not recording this right now, so it's not for publicity. But yeah, so I know that people can conveniently pick these up at Nordstrom, Ulta, even Prime them, 2-day shipping. Online from Amazon to their house in discreet packaging. Their husband won't notice.
That's right.
So they can order as many as they like, and they'll be looking flawless, but we're not going to talk about any of that today. Let me just ask you, like, what's next outside of the new product launches? Like, what are some of the dreams that you have now? Any, like, future visions at play, like, on your heart right now that you might want to see through?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about, I feel, you know, BK Beauty, we've been around for almost 7 years. It still feels so brand new and still so young, and so I feel like we have so much ahead of us, and I feel like, you know, we've had a lot of success, but just in the brush category, so I'm really excited about building the next chapter of the business and growing. And, you know, people ask, like, do you have plans to sell? Do you ever want to sell? And we don't. Like, I look forward to having a business that my daughters can step into one day if they want to. I look forward to just building something big and just really enjoying life. Yes, we work hard, you know, and a lot of opportunities are coming and things are going great, but I still feel like I have a good balance in my life.
Same.
And that's so important to me. So I have no desire to retire.
Me either.
I
love creating.
I do too.
I love creating.
I hear a lot of people actually that sell their companies, that's a big struggle that they have afterwards. Is what next? Like, what do you do after this?
I'd be too bored. I love creating things and working with people, just meeting people, having conversations like this. And you mentioned you have such an incredible team and how you've sort of magnetized the right people to BK Beauty and Lisa J just through your own authenticity. And I think you mentioned earlier, like, realizing that you could be a soft leader, a nurturing leader, right? Versus that sort of bad bitch, for lack of a better term, you know, that the world tells us,
are afraid of,
oh, if you're going to be a CEO and founder, oh, you have to act this way. And I'm like, I realized pretty quickly on too that, one, it wasn't servicing me the way I wanted, and two, it wasn't who I was, and it felt so in contrast.
And also, it's like, who wants to work for that person? Nobody. And in order to build something big, you cannot do it yourself. You need a team of people that care about your brand, care about your business, are passionate, excited to show up to work every day. And if they work for someone like like that,
Yeah.
you're not getting a team of people like that.
Yeah, and I always tell my team, I'm like, I never want you to have the Sunday scaries working for me. If that's happening, then I'm doing something wrong, you know? And we've built, just same here, like the most beautiful team that, like, my team's here with me today, and it's literally just because they're so supportive and want to see me succeed, you know?
I tell people I get all the credit for building BK Beauty, but I'm like this much of it.
Same,
really
same. TD's 100%, like my whole team. It's beautiful to watch other people flourish because of like a little seed you had, you know, and step into their own, and like that's such a rewarding part of it all too.
Very much.
Well, Lisa, I really enjoyed this. It was everything I hoped it would be. I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me and sharing a little bit of your heart in hopes of maybe inspiring other women to go down their path and really in self-discovery and finding out what their dreams are and pursuing those. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love this conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours.
We could, and we will once the cameras are off.
I'm so excited.
That's when the
for
good
this.
stuff
I
starts.
know.